So apparently you're supposed to make renderings after you're done building your entire model in Rhino. How do you go about doing that? And what sorts of things do you have to pay attention to? There's a bunch of little fussy stuff. Of course, it's welcome to Rhino, right? So let's take a look. I'm sharing my screen. We're going to take a look at Rhino and see whether we can't figure out how to make this thing work. So here's my groovy little aliens inside their box. As you can see, I've put on a background that is downtown Toronto, and it moves with my model, which is pretty cool. Um, but one of the things that we were finding is that when we ran renderings of this, that there was a horizontal line in the middle of that. And I thought it had to do with the way that the box was constructed. Turns out that's not the case. So what I want to show you is how do you set your renderings up? As you know about Rhino, there are two modes. There's this mode where we build the model. You can build in lots of different formats. Wireframe mode, you can do it in shaded mode, you can do it in rendered mode to see how the whole thing looks. But once you're done, you want to take a look at this thing as a rendering, which is to say, bounce the light around the entire object and see how this thing looks. So if you go to the render menu here, you got an option to choose render preview, which will open up the render mode of Rhino. And it will give you kind of a preview or an idea or just kind of a sketch of how your rendering is going to go. And that's a great place to highlight problems, to see what happens, to kind of make sure that your lights are working properly, that all the other things that you put in there are good. It's, as you can see, kind of a slow process. So it requires a certain level of patience in order to do this. But luckily, you are swimming in patience. So you can see right now it's starting to load the whole thing up, bringing that model into place and saying, okay, based on where you were the last time, where your camera was set up, I'm going to start showing you the render of that model. Now, I know that I made my glass out of green plastic. So I'm not surprised by the green part, but it's this horizontal line right here that really bugs me. And I thought for sure it had to do with the model. It's not the model. Let me show you what's going on. I'm going to close that render. Are you sure you want to stop? Are you nuts? I am completely nuts. So I'm going to shut that down, come back here, and in the render properties, this is where you have to go in. I'm going to show you this model right here. Render properties gives you a chance to play with a whole bunch of different things. So I've got a 360 environment turned on, Toronto downtown. If you wanted to get into that, you could say, I want to add another one. There's a whole bunch of them that are available inside the environment library that are provided for you inside Rhino. So that's an option. But right here, see that line right there that says ground plane? That's what's causing that horizontal line to go across the middle of our renderings. So if you turn that off, all of a sudden, you won't get that horizontal line through the middle of it. The other thing I wanted to mention is in here, my sun is on, but it's turned way down. Sun settings, it's at 90%. Well, no, it's at 40%. North is 90 degrees. So it's 40% intensity. So I'm happy with that. I've actually turned off the sky. So the light that's coming in right now is basically completely controlled by the lights that I've got in here. You can see there's 2 point lights right there. There's another spotlight, which you can kind of see the way that it's casting a shadow right down here. So that sets up, I've got complete control over exactly how that light works. So once I do all those things to my render properties menu, which as I say, lives down at the bottom of the render menu right there. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to go into render proper. Instead of render preview, which gives you kind of a hint at it, I'm going to go to render proper. And once I get into render there, then I can go ahead and see how this model looks. And inside the render menu, I can also choose how do I want to save this file as when I'm done. So I can export this as a JPEG, as a BMP, as a TIFF file, as a PNG file. There's all kinds of possibilities once I'm done with that. And they all those save options live right here under this adorable little floppy disk. you gotta love whoever made this thing is probably older than me, which is a lot. So that's the icon that they use to say save this rendering as. So this is coming up now. You can see I've still got that green color to the glass, and I can change that. Feel free. You guys know how to do that. Um, but what it's giving me then is I don't have that horizontal line across there, and it's going to go ahead and run this thing. I'm going to run the the settings in the render properties let you run this at draft or at good or at final. I'm running it, sorry, at draft, which means you can see at the very bottom here, I'm through 10 paths of 50. It's going to run 50 times through this thing, bounce the light around, try to make it as accurate as possible. So by the time it's run 50, it'll be pretty good. But I'm only running at draft quality. If you want to run this at good or at final, you want to just turn this on, let it run overnight, turn it on and go take a bath, have dinner, do something, go for a walk, take your dog. So you let that thing do its thing because it takes a while for the engine to bounce the light around. Some of you have equipment that is less capable than my MacBook Pro here. So it's probably worth it for you to give this a little bit of extra time and let it do its thing. Once you're all done though, as I say, right here you'll find there is a chance to save this as JPEG, PNG, TIFF file. All those are options for you. So hopefully that helps to you to know how do you do this darn thing? How do you finish your file, make your renderings, save something that's pretty terrific. I so look forward to seeing what you've done with all these toys and the information that we've got here. So long.